From the first step onto the bridge, I knew the city had forgotten how to breathe. The pavement stretched out ahead of me, cracked and broken, stretching into the heart of a silence that felt older than stone. The skyline loomed in the distance, not alive, not dead, but watching. Scraps of paper whispered across the asphalt whenever the wind remembered to move. Every flutter felt too loud, as if the air itself resented the noise. Even the smallest sound seemed dangerous, like it could wake something I wasn't ready to meet. The railing was streaked with rust, eaten away by years of rain and neglect. I let my hand hover just above the corroded steel, but I didn't touch. It felt wrong, as if the city had claimed even the decay as part of its memory, and I was just an intruder. Across the water, Manhattan rose like a tomb. The skyscrapers were hollow monuments, their windows like empty eyes, their faces scarred and broken. The mist wrapped itself around their crowns, and in that suffocating stillness, I realized the silence wasn't absence. It was waiting. Times Square should have been alive, bursting with noise and neon, but all that remained was an empty wound. The screens that once blinded the world now stared back at me, black and broken, like hollow eyes that had forgotten how to shine. I walked closer, staring at the billboards. They were cracked, peeling, wires dangling like veins, frozen mid-sentence. It was strange, like the city had tried to speak, but the words had died on its tongue. The streets themselves felt like a stage abandoned mid-performance. Streetlights stood rusted, their shadows stretching long, while scraps of flyers and plastic bags danced across the cracked asphalt. They were the only performers left, repeating a play no one was watching. And then, the mist rolled in, swallowing the ground and softening the edges of the buildings. My footsteps disappeared into it, muffled, stolen. It was as if Times Square itself wanted to keep me, to bury me inside its silence forever. The city narrowed here, pressed into walls of brick and shadow. The alley stretched out like a throat, silent and breathless, its cracked pavement littered with damp papers and broken glass. Every step I took echoed too loudly, as if the darkness itself was listening. A broken street lamp leaned overhead, its light dead for years, leaving only scraps of glow that slid across wet brick. Shadows clung to every corner, stretching and twisting, and in that silence I almost heard something breathing back at me. I stopped by the rusted trash cans, staring at the wreckage of lives long gone. A chair knocked on its side, a pipe dripping endlessly, moss creeping up the walls. The alley hadn't been touched in years, but it still felt alive, watching, waiting. Then came the mist, slow and deliberate, curling between the bricks and bins like fingers reaching out. It wrapped around my legs, soft but suffocating, blurring the world into pale shapes. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I was walking deeper into the alley, or if the alley was swallowing me whole. The platform stretched before me, empty and hollow. Fluorescent lights flickered weakly, throwing long, uneasy shadows on the cracked tiles. The tracks disappeared into darkness, silent and endless, as if the trains had forgotten how to run. I walked past the benches, their paint chipped and rust creeping along the edges. Torn posters clung desperately to the walls, and a toppled coffee cup lay abandoned on the floor. Every detail whispered of lives that had vanished, leaving nothing but echoes behind. The tracks called to me, vanishing into a void of shadow and mist. Broken tiles crunched beneath my feet, debris scattered along the rails. I could almost hear the faint hiss of trains that would never come, a reminder of a city paused in time. Mist crept along the tunnel, curling around rails and walls, softening the edges of reality. Every flicker of the failing lights made the shadows dance. The silence was not empty. It was patient, aware, waiting for me to step too far. I stepped onto the rooftop. The city sprawled beneath me like a sleeping giant. Skyscrapers rose hollow and dark, windows broken, streets empty. The silence was so thick it felt like the air itself had weight. I walked to the edge, rusted railing beneath my hands, cracked concrete underfoot. Loose papers and debris swirled in the wind, dancing over the abyss below. The city seemed to hold its breath, waiting. From here, Manhattan's skyline looked different. The towers loomed like silent watchers, their shattered windows reflecting nothing. I felt both small and exposed, as if the city itself could see me, judging my intrusion into its emptiness. Fog drifted between buildings, curling through gaps and alleys, softening the edges of the world. The wind whispered against my ears, carrying no sound of life, only the memory of what once was. The city was alive in absence, haunted in ways words could not capture.